I won the Polish lottery about 2 days ago.
Really? How much did you win?
I get $1 a year for 1,000,000 years. And I think it's great.
Just I've always thought of you to be a very interesting person. You have a lot of stories to tell. Every time when I was a little girl, every time I would talk to you, you'd have another story to tell.
You know, in my days of soliciting passengers for my pre-owned limousine, you never knew what you would encounter on a daily basis. I mean, you just went out there and you hit the hotels in Manhattan. There was one time, I distinctly remember, I was cruising down Fifth Avenue and I see a middle-aged lady and an elderly lady and about 3 young people, 3 children. Can I give all of you a ride somewhere? She said, well, actually, we're only going down to the NBC studios, which was on 49th Street between 5th and 6th, separated by Rockefeller Center. I made my first right turn on 49th Street, and I went down perhaps a half a block, and I dropped them off by the NBC studios. I believe that they were going upstairs for lunch at one of the restaurants. She said, how much do I owe you? I said, ma'am, this is a solicitation to see that if I was kind enough and good enough to take you to this particular area, there would be no charge. But however, I would like to ask you, if you have further need of my services, I make myself available to you. And she said, I'm very gratified that you said that because we were looking for someone just like you. I said, that's wonderful. And your name? And she said, my name is Jordan, Mrs. Jordan. So she said, can you pick us up at a hotel this evening? We're going to a play. And then I also suggested, I said, are you going out for dinner, Mrs. Jordan, prior to the play? She said, yes, we're going to Tavern on the Green, which is a restaurant located in Central Park. And years ago, it was a dancing palace because New York society used to go to Tavern on the Green and dance to the famous Eddie Duchin Orchestra. Went ahead and did that, and then I took him back to their hotel. I believe that they all stayed at the Marriott Marquis in the middle of Times Square, which is one of the largest Marriotts. She said, well, what do I owe you, Jack? I said, Mrs. Jordan, I said, I usually get $500-600 for this. I said, I don't know whether you can afford this or not, but whatever you can do. Okay? So she said, okay, can you pick us up in the morning? We'd like to go to the World Trade Center, to the observation tower. I said, absolutely no problem. So next morning I showed up, they got in the car, and we went down to World Trade Center. And she said to me, can you take us someplace for lunch? And I said, of course. So I took them to the Tribeca Grill, which is a wonderful restaurant located in Tribeca. Tribeca is an abbreviation of Triangle Between Canal, because it's located just off a canal. And years ago, it was a produce market where all the hotels and the restaurants and the shops came to get their produce. And then, of course, that produce market wound up north of the city in Hunts Point, which is in the Bronx. But the area, which was formerly produce, became very livable for lofts and apartment houses. And the Tribeca Grill opened. I believe someone once told me that Robert De Niro had some kind of connection with this Tribeca Grill. I don't know the extent of that information, but people were very happy with the service and the food there, so I took them there for lunch. Can we see the city a little bit? I said, absolutely. So I took them for a tour through the city. First I started, being that we were in Lower Manhattan, I took them to the Woolworth Building, which is a Gothic structure, 60 stories. I continued the trip after the Woolworth Building to Wall and Broad Street and showed them the statue of George Washington, where he took his oath as the first president of the United States. Showed him the stock exchange, where in front of the stock exchange there is a little enclosed buttonwood tree, which is planted there, I believe, yearly by the New York Stock Exchange. And it was on that spot that the concept of trading became an actuality. So they were satisfied, and they were also tired. So I took them back to the hotel, and then as I let them out, she said, Jack, I'm going to give you this envelope, and I hope that it covers the 2 days. I said, Mrs. Jordan, I don't even have to look inside. She said, tomorrow morning, we're checking out. Can you take us to LaGuardia Airport? I said, absolutely. I drive away, and my curiosity was burning. So, of course, parked the car. The windows are closed and the car is locked, and I'm looking in the envelope. And I see 2,100 $100 bills, $2,100. I gave myself a pat in the back. I said, good job. And then in the morning, picked them up and we went to LaGuardia. Dropped them off at LaGuardia Airport, thanked her very, very much. She gave me another envelope. She said, Jack, I know that I gave you something nice last night, but I also would like to reward you with this because my family really enjoyed your company. I said, thank you so much, Mrs. Jordan. Have a safe trip home. And of course, you have my card. If you ever come to New York again, I would love to see you and your family. So with that, I drove away. But now, when you drive away from LaGuardia, you can't stop the car because you're on the Grand Central Parkway. So I made sure that I moved over to a safe place where I could park, and I looked in the envelope again, and there was $900 there. So I got $3,000 for 2 days' work. And when I was about a year and a half old, my mom and dad decided to move to Paris, France. So I remained in Paris, France until the ripe old age of about 5.5, 6. And then they moved to Italy. And once we were in Italy, we were found out that we were Jewish, and we were placed in internment camps in Italy, because in those years, Italy was in accord with Germany. And my mom was taken away to some camps of that nature, and my grandmother and myself, we were told that we would be reunited soon, but of course that was a lie. I didn't know when I was going to see my mother again. But as fortune may be, we were reunited in Italy in a place called Potenza, which is in the southern part of Italy. And there was an internment camp that we were there called Ferramonte, which was part of Potenza. And we spent some considerable time there. And then one night, the Allied bombers came in, and there was a bombing raid near the camp, and most of the people in the camp just ran for their lives in the middle of the night. And my mom, my grandmother, myself, and my newborn baby sister had to go on a 100-mile trek through the woods, and the Germans were behind us because there was an invasion that took place in Anzio, Italy. So they were retreating north, and here we are, we're walking through the woods to possible safety. So there was a span where my mom told us to remain in the woods for a couple of days, that she was going to seek help. And a couple of days later came, and she came with a jeep of soldiers, and we were able to be rescued. We are living in a country where politics takes precedent to the very survival of the people of this country. The lobbyists in Washington that should have been kicked out many, many years ago still exist with their venom. They try to influence our lawmakers, congressmen, senators, into believing that the best response to the dilemma that faces this country
Dilemmas.
is to pass bills that are considered unreasonable
Yeah.
for the rest of the people of this country to live by. An individual goes into a elementary school in Connecticut and kills 20 young children. A raving lunatic goes into a movie theater in Colorado and kills 12 people. And the killing seems to go on and on and on. And no one stops to say, when is this madness going to stop? The people in Washington, the lobbyists with this NRA that's in existence, don't stop to ask themselves.
Yeah.
They just feel that the amendment in the Constitution of the United States gives them a license to carry guns.
Right.
People forget that what was formed in 1770, 1780, when the Constitution went into effect, that was good for a smaller amount of population than what exists today. I find that there is soul in jazz. I find that there is an escape even for those who perform, an escape from perhaps sadness, tragedy. They have found the sound which would make a heart hum by playing and singing music as they do. To me, I mean, I've been a jazz lover since I was 16 years old, and I'm 82 now. When I got here from Europe, every candy store in the neighborhood had a jukebox, and I used to put a dime in it and listen to Tommy Dorsey, Jimmy Dorsey, and Glenn Miller, and Woody Herman. And I grew up with that. And then, of course, later on in life, a lot of these instrumentalists from these bands, they went on their own and they formed quintets and quartets. And as Dave Brubeck and Oscar Peterson and Art Blakey and Miles Davis and so many great artists who play with their heart. When you listen to Billie Holiday sing, she is crying and singing at the same time, and you experience that sadness, and it comes on so beautiful, as well, of course, as Ella Fitzgerald, but not as realistic as Billie Holiday, and that's what drove me to love this particular kind of music. I will tell you this, though. I love Polish people. There's nothing wrong with Polish people. But for some unforsaken reason, they miscue a lot with certain aspects of their life. For example, where I live now, this wonderful Jewish housewife, she had a 17-year-old kid that joined the Navy yesterday. Today, she got a letter from the War Department that he was kicked out.
Why?
They put him in a submarine. He wanted to sleep with the windows open.
Your Polish jokes are they're really simple, and
Yeah, I mean,
it's because Polish people they don't get it.
they don't get it. And a lot of people can't understand why there's no ice in Poland. In the entire country, you can't find a cube of ice.
Why not?
They don't have a recipe.
Oh, Dad.
But I'm very happy about Polish people. I won the Polish lottery about 2 days ago.
Really? How much did you win?
I get $1 a year for a million years. And I think it's great.